If the way you get people interested in your program, getting them to raise their hand, feels like it's broken, it isn't. Your audience is. A couple of weeks ago, I walked into a beautiful hotel in Moscow, and there was a Rolls-Royce dealership sitting between reception and the elevators. No salespeople, no pitch, no pressure, just a fucking Rolls-Royce parked in the lobby. And that lobby taught me everything about why hand raisers convert or don't. And so in the next couple of minutes, I'll walk you through the 3-part framework that I use inside my mentoring group to fix hand raisers that aren't converting. And I call this one the Rolls-Royce Lobby. Just before we get into the framework, if you're watching this, you're probably doing 9, 10, or 11K one month and then sliding back down to 5 or 6 the next. So you're posting hand raisers consistently, but not really getting much traction out of them. Conversion kind of feels like you're pulling teeth every single week. If that's you, this is for you. And if it isn't you, you're probably better off watching another video. All right. The single dumbest belief in this bracket right now is that better copy fixes a broken hand raiser. And it doesn't, because it never has and it never will. Because the copy isn't the issue. It's the person who reads it that is the most important. I spent years rewriting ads and funnels and landing pages and social media descriptions, convinced that the right person would eventually walk through the door if they just read it. But I never optimized for who it was actually for in the beginning, and so all of that hard work just went nowhere. And it wasn't until I saw one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in my life, where a Rolls-Royce dealership was in a lobby of a hotel in Moscow, that I really understood why. All right, let's get into it. There are 3 main reasons as to why your hand raisers are broken. We'll break them down now so you get a clear understanding of where you're going wrong. And then just after that, we're going to go through the 3 things that make them absolutely slap every single time. The first main pattern that I see with hand raisers is that you're sending them to the wrong room. If you've taken all the bad advice of the industry and tried to go viral too many times with all of your videos, well, then you're posting a specific hand raiser to a specific offer to a non-specific audience that was built on reach and virality, which means there are a ton of different people that could be seeing it. So the your audience gets qualified for entertainment, not your offering, which is why you get views on a reel. And then when you post a CTA, crickets, nobody's fucking interested. And that's not wrong. And it doesn't mean that your offer's bad or your hand raiser's bad or the copy that you used for that offer or hand raiser is bad. Just means that the majority of your audience isn't shopping. You put that same Rolls-Royce, which makes sense in a 5-star hotel lobby, in a train station, which doesn't make any fucking sense. The second one is the panic button. You post a hand raiser once, maybe twice, and it gets weak or shitty results. And so you conclude that hand raisers don't work for your niche or some bullshit. So you disappear for 6 weeks and then you post another one when revenue starts to drop off. Nobody remembers the last one and nobody learns to expect the pattern. The right person shows up ready when the door isn't even there because it's random and it's sporadic and you're only doing it when you feel like it or when revenue starts to dry up. A hand raiser used only when you're desperate isn't a strategy. A hand raiser used only when you're desperate isn't a fucking strategy. It's a disaster in disguise. The third one is the scavenger hunt. Somebody finally comments a keyword, and what they get next is a form or a calendar link or an email that requires them to click a link, that requires them to fill out a survey, that requires them to book a time. Every extra step between I'm interested, give me the thing, and here's what to do next is a chance for a qualified buyer to lose the thread, get bored, get distracted, and just not think that it's worth their time. And most people in this day and age, they're not going to follow your 6-step fancy fucking process. You made buying the Rolls-Royce feel like a fucking interview. I don't like being interviewed. I don't think most people do. And all 3 of these are a problem for the same reason. The hand raiser is being asked to do all the work. You trying to attract the right person, convince them, close them, deliver them into your world. But that's not what they're for. A hand raiser is one small piece of a much bigger system. And if the other pieces are broken, the hand raiser gets the blame. And the shitty part about this is if your hand raiser has any of these 3 things where you're posting it to the wrong room, you're hitting the panic button, or it feels like a bit of a scavenger hunt when it's too fucking difficult to get through, you just keep going through those same massive cycles where your revenue goes up and then it comes back down. It goes up, but then you get too busy delivering. content drops off, your marketing takes a back seat, and then people come in and get a decent result, but they leave before the long-term transformation. So then you panic, and then you post a hand raiser into a cold audience who wasn't expecting anything, and then nothing comes back, and then the fear gets worse. So then you triple down on the selling, and then everyone thinks you're desperate, and the cycle just continues again and again and again. And I don't know about you, but that's not going to get fixed by writing better copy. It breaks when you fix who's actually reading it and how you design the environment that it fits within. So here's what it actually looks like when you start to do it right. The old way of doing this is posting and hoping, where you write a hand raiser, you drop it to a feed of people that are all mixed matched and not specific. You wait to see who bites, and then you chase the ones who show mild interest and try to build conviction on a sales call that was never going to go anywhere. After the offer, they give you an objection, and then they say they got to speak to their partner or some other bullshit. You know it's bullshit, they know it's bullshit, but the fact of the matter is they just weren't the right person for the offer. It's not that your offer's bad, it's just you were speaking to the incorrect person. And then so you follow up and they ghost you, and then you sit there having an existential crisis as to why your business isn't going the way that you want it to. The new way is build the environment where you make sure that the right person is already in your feed before the hand raiser ever even appears. Then the hand raiser doesn't need to convince anybody, it just needs to be visible at the moment of intent. The old way is a bunch of heavy lifting on your hand raiser, which isn't meant to be doing that. The new way is the easy right next step. It just becomes a natural extension of people watching your content, getting great information, feeling like they are understood from the message that you're delivering through the messaging system that I taught you guys recently. And then starting to understand you, working with you as the right logical step, but they just don't have an easy, frictionless opportunity to say, yep, I want to work with you. And then so you pop a hand raiser in front of them after you've built the correct environment, and it just becomes the right next step that they can easily take rather than trying to guess or go through a crazy pipeline or have to validate your panic when your revenue starts to go up and down like this. And this is where we start to build the framework. Call it the Rolls-Royce Lobby. It's what I mentioned at the start of this video. Now, on the left here is the Radisson collection. It's the hotel in Moscow that I stayed at. And in the bottom right, if you can see that, if you pause and zoom in, is basically where you walk through the doors and then you hook a left and you can see a Rolls-Royce dealership, which is fucking crazy. I never thought I'd see that in a hotel, just by the way. The reason I bring this up to you is because the hotel had already done the qualification. Anyone staying in that hotel, it's a 5-star place, pretty fancy. It's got marble all over the place. It's beautiful. I actually had a friend of mine on Instagram. His name's Eugene. And he sent me a message. He says, I'd love to take you around the city. You guys are a guest in my country. Let me show you some stuff that you probably wouldn't see otherwise. When he came to the hotel, he goes, it's really cool you're staying here because it's actually known as one of the 7 Stalin buildings, I think he said, where they erected these buildings that all look very similar. And we went on a train ride and found the other 7 and he pointed it all out to us. It was really cool. And so there's a lot of prestige and a lot of history around that specific hotel. And that means that the people that are going to be staying there, it's a 5-star place, it's really nice, it's got marble everywhere, it's beautiful, are already pretty pre-qualified, especially to consider what's already on display. So you've got a Rolls-Royce dealership down the end, you've got Breitling, you've got suit tailors, you've got watches, you've got all these things. And nobody in there is trying to push you into selling. They're not trying to stand out the front like those places in the mall where they're trying to rip you into the store. And there's a place in Penrith, they do hearing aids or something, and they always got somebody out the front trying to drag you in. It's a poor qualification process, and it's probably why your hand raisers aren't working as well as they should be. Because a Rolls-Royce dealership doesn't open a branch in a backpacker hostel. Not because backpackers are bad people, by the way. I've met plenty, they're fucking great. But because they're not in a position to buy from that company. And most of you guys in the sports and fitness industry are posting hand raisers that are like a Rolls-Royce dealership in the backpacker hostels. But then you blame the dealership, which doesn't make any sense. You just haven't set up the right environment. So I call the framework for fixing this the Rolls-Royce Lobby. It's got 3 parts. We're going to break it down right now. We've got the lobby, the rhythm, the runway. And just before we go deep on the framework, let me tell you what actually happened in the Moscow hotel. So we're staying here. I'm competing in jiu-jitsu. We've got 4 nights in this place, which was really cool. Beautiful marble flooring, big chandelier in the middle of the lobby, and pieces of the hotel that were probably as old as my grandparents. And I walked through and didn't really know where to go, but I saw this thing to my left that caught my attention, which is very strange for a regular hotel. I was dragging my suitcase in there and trying to figure out where to go. There's a fucking Rolls-Royce Phantom staring at me down the left. And I'm a big car nut. I fucking love cars. I've definitely got car autism, not the train autism, but I can look at any car and basically tell you the displacement, the horsepower, what brand and model it is, probably around about when it was made. And so I turn to the left and I'm looking at this thing and I'm standing there and I'm like, why on earth why is this here? And how does this make any fucking sense? Why would you put a car dealership at the bottom of a hotel? And then I had a decent look around and there was a Breitling store, there was all this fine jewelry, there was a suit tailor, there was like fancy leather bags and all this type of stuff. Every luxury bracket you could think of, all arranged in a single lobby down the bottom of the stairs. And not anybody standing there trying to get you to buy it or trying to sell anything, or nobody trying to hand me a brochure, nobody asking if I wanted to book a viewing. And then I finally clicked onto what was going on. The hotel does the qualification first. Because if you've made it as far as checking into this hotel, you've already got some pretty good money. Now, thankfully, I didn't pay for this stay because it's fucking pricey. I looked it up when I went in there. As an athlete, sometimes you get to stay in pretty cool places and you don't have to pay for it, which is more than enough motivation to start to kick ass in a sport. But besides that, by the time you'd already got yourself to deciding you wanted to stay here for several $1,000s a night, you can probably afford the stuff they've got downstairs. And that was the beauty of it, is that the environment had pre-selected the buyer before the product had even entered the conversation. The Rolls-Royce didn't need to sell itself. It just needed to be visible when the right person walked through the door. That's when it finally clicked. And I was like, fuck, that's genius. Whoever's running this place knows exactly what they're doing. And most of you guys in the sports and fitness coaching industry, in the 5 to 10K bracket, you're trying to build the dealership and the hotel at the same time. So you're writing hand raisers designed to convince strangers to become buyers, which doesn't work very well. Like, put yourself in their shoes, right? You've watched 2 videos of some guy on Instagram, you barely followed him, and then he's asking you for money. That's a completely different reality to setting up the right environment where maybe they've followed you for 3 to 6 months, you've helped them get a quick win, and a small result. And then finally, there's a very low risk option to get to the next step where you start to become a subscriber or a paying member or part of their program. That's completely different. And that's why we're going to build this environment out properly. The hand raisers can't convert strangers to buyers. It's not going to happen. The job of the hand raiser was never persuasion. It's visibility at the moment of intent. And we need to do some specific things before we even get there. That lobby that I was in was doing all the qualification. The Rolls-Royce just had to sit there. So I sat with it for a couple of days and I went back through every hand raiser I'd ever posted that hadn't really converted, hadn't really done anything. Every single one of them had the same problem. I'd been posting the Rolls-Royce into a lobby that hadn't been built yet, expecting that the hand raiser was going to do all the qualification for me, work that should have been done way upstream. Like when I first started mentoring, I posted if people wanted to grow their following as much as I did on my main account to 200 some thousand followers back then. I blew my DMs up, something savage. I got like 150 replies to this hand raiser specifically. Not a single person was in the niche that I wanted to coach and mentor here. Not one person out of 150. I relied on one story post to try and do all of that for me. But that's completely wrong mindset. I hadn't built the environment whatsoever. And I was literally trying to put a luxury car dealership inside a hostel thinking that it was going to work. It was just never going to work. So I had to go back and think about rebuilding everything. And the thing that'll stick out the most when I show you how the framework works, the sharper your avatar the whole way through, the better this is going to work. And that's what starts to build this environment. Then you start to introduce the rhythm, and then you're good to go. And you'll actually find that not a lot about your invitation changes. It's just everything about who is reading it that changes. Because the thing is, even though a Rolls-Royce Phantom or a Cullinan or a Ghost or a Wraith or a Spectre, car autism, I know, is a great fucking car, and a lot of people would like to be driving them and experience what that's like, if you're trying to sell it to people that are making $100,000 a year, they cannot afford 5, 6, 7, 8 times their salary in a vehicle. And just before we get into the framework, I've got a really interesting story about this. Rolls-Royce were actually having this problem themselves. They were going to car shows and they were trying to sell $600,000 worth of car against other cars that were worth $200,000 or $300,000 that were comparable. Not competitive, but comparable. And so you know what the GM of Rolls-Royce did? He goes, you know what? Why don't we start selling our cars at jet exhibitions? Let's go take them to where they sell jets for $20, $30, $40 million and see what happens. The environment pre-qualified them for buyers that had 40 mil just ready to spend. So a $300,000 to $900,000 Rolls-Royce, chump change, brother. I'll get 5 of them. Why not? And they literally did see their sales explode just because they changed the correct environment for the right kind of people. And that makes all the difference. All right, enough bullshit. Let's get into it. Number 1 is the lobby. And the thing that it solves is that you need to design your feed to be full of the right people. Because before the invitation ever appears, it's not going to work if there's no synchronicity within that. The rhythm is that your hand raiser shows up once every so often and then disappears for 6 weeks until you hit the panic button and throw 3 into 1 week and then piss everybody off in your audience. And that doesn't make any sense. And the runway is that the qualified buyer wants to raise their hand and get sent on a fucking scavenger hunt to try and figure out how to actually buy your shit. So we're going to solve those 3 things and we're going to do it right now. Also, if you think that anything other than the fucking banana rockaby flavor is the best, you're kidding yourself. Anyway, so the dumbest thing I see when it comes to hand raisers in terms of the lobby is that so many people have just optimized for reach and not conversion, and they are very different objectives, very different tools. And you can't measure a Rolls-Royce dealership by foot traffic. Your feed is the lobby, right? We're going with the analogy here. Every reel, every carousel, every story that you post is a filter for who ends up walking past the Rolls-Royce. Most coaches in this bracket have a feed built for reach. You've got motivational posts, you've got broad tips, you've got content designed to catch the widest possible reach. And that isn't the hotel lobby, like the sexy gangster one that I stayed at. It's a train station or a hostel. Fine for foot traffic, terrible for luxury conversion. And if the person reading your hand raiser hasn't already been qualified by the 15 or so posts that they saw before it, the hand raiser has to do all the work itself, and it can't. Not because it isn't good, but because that's not the job of the hand raiser at all. A client of mine, Tom, summed this up as clean as I've ever heard it inside my case study group. He said, I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to making reels, I feel like they aren't hitting home. That's the sound of a lobby full of wrong people. The reels are technically fine. They're just landing in front of humans who are never gonna buy a Ghost or a Cullinan or a Wraith. The fix isn't sharper copy. The fix is a smaller, more specific lobby. Content that only the right person recognizes and that quietly repels everybody else through the language that you use, who you're speaking to, the problems that you're aware of, the solutions that you're aware of, all that type of stuff. So by the time the hand raiser appears, the person reading it has already been told by the last couple of posts that yes, this account is for them, and that right logical next step, the easy frictionless yes, is probably going to lead to more of what they've been getting, which they've been enjoying because you're speaking to them specifically. Because the thing is, 100 qualified humans in your lobby will out earn 100,000 tourists in a train station every single time. Now, the thing I get pushback with this is if I go too narrow, my reach is gonna die. And yes, it will, if your goal is to chase views. But if you're chasing revenue per post, narrower is the whole point. That's the lobby. And that's why we need to build the environment before you park the Cullen in it. Fuck, I want one of those cars so bad. The second one is the rhythm. And the stupid shit that I see related to this is people believe that hand raisers are only about launches. And they're not. Hand raiser used once and never repeated, not really a launch. It's a lost buyer. Because most coaches post one hand raiser, watch it flop, and then quietly fuck off for 6 weeks. You don't hear from them. They go cold in terms of their revenue generation. Then they go, oh shit, I better post another one of these things. Then the same thing happens. Cold audience, they've got no idea what the last one was, so there's no momentum that's been built, and then you get the same result. And that's not a strategy. That's whipping the rolls into the lobby every now and then on every 6th Tuesday just for the fuck of it. How are you going to sell anybody when it's so sporadic and so crazy? By the time you've pulled it in, the guests forget that it was ever there. And when the right buyer finally does arrive, they walk past the empty spot and they go, oh, that's a nice marble floor. Wonder what was there before. The right person doesn't raise their hand the first time they see the invitation most of the time. They raise their hand when the timing lines up with their readiness. The only way that happens is if the hand raiser is actually a reoccurring feature of your content, not a special event. The cadence I run inside my group is that you probably want to deliver one hand raiser a week or about every 3 or 4 posts. You don't want to just bombard people all day, every day, because then they get the shits. But then you also don't want to hide behind scarcity mindset and not post any of them, because then you're going to run into the same problem with the rhythm. The tip for this is that you use the same keyword with the same destination, but use a different angle each time. So you can use pain one week, proof the next week, philosophy the next week, and then plan the week after that. So you get the same Rolls-Royce feeling with a different light on it every time. Maybe when you walk into the dealership, they positioned it a little bit differently, or maybe they rotated in another car. It's essentially the same thing, but it just looks a little bit different. And the right person watching your stuff that's getting stuff out of your being in your lobby starts to pick up on this rhythm. And the cycle can happen 4 or 5 times before they actually do anything about it. Not because they didn't get it the first time, but because life had them distracted the first 4 times. And on the 5th, something clicks in their week and they finally comment the keyword. I've had this experience beforehand. I had a guy send me an email the other day saying that, bro, I've been on your email list for like 2.5 years now. I had never paid you anything. I just signed up to your program. And I'm like, fuck yeah, how cool is that? It took 2 years for that guy to be in the right position to access the stuff that I do. And if I had just stopped putting hand raisers in all of my stuff, I never would have found a bunch of those people. I'm sure there's plenty more. He's just the one that decided to let me know, which is great. Thanks to him. But you guys are probably missing out on that same opportunity because you post one and then ghost and then come back when you need it, rather than having it on a regular cadence, which will make sure that your revenue stops going like this and starts going like this. And if you just decide to gap the hand raiser on the 5th time, then you miss that one person. And that's the thing with hand raisers. 9 times out of 10, the rhythm is the problem. The right person shows up ready and there's no door to knock on to get in. Now, the thing I hear pushback with this is like, yeah, but if I post the same hand raiser every week, won't my audience get sick of it? You're not posting to the entirety of your audience. You're posting to the right person inside your audience who's only seen you 5 or maybe 10 times ever. From their side, they haven't seen the invitation enough. From your side, it feels like too much. Remember the Henry Ford story we told a couple of weeks ago? Trust their side of the equation, not yours. It's probably going to feel like you're doing it a lot, but for them, they're going to miss 40 or 50% of your videos no matter what. And so it's not going to feel as overwhelming. Put it on every post and you're probably going to piss them off. But with the rhythm that we just set up, you'll be completely fine. It's the same rolls, but it's the different angle. So it's predictable enough that when the timing hits, it's parked right where the buyer expects it to be. Now, the third and final piece of this framework is the runway. And the thing that people confuse with this is the difference between friction and professionalism. Extra steps feel serious. they're not serious. They're just extra steps. You're just putting fluff in the fucking way. And every extra step loses a qualified buyer. Now, this could be a decent strategy if you want to selectively limit the amount of people that can get to the end of your process. Like for me, for example, like you guys watch this video, you may or may not be qualified. You still get a lot out of it. If you are qualified, there's usually an invitation at the end to watch a second video and then a third video. And then finally, you get the opportunity to opt in with a special secret keyword at the end of one of those videos. If you go through that entire process, then there's an application. And if you're approved, that's when you get in. I do that very specifically because I don't want everybody coming to the very end that haven't demonstrated proper commitment. But I'm not making people jump through hoops that are crazy. It's very logical, it's in order, and it's selectively weeding out people who aren't that serious, aren't that committed. They're more interested. And interested people are typically time wasters. But you don't want to just put in extra steps for the fuck of it, because that'll ruin your pipeline. The Rolls-Royce dealership in the bottom of the hotel didn't ask you to drive across town and book an appointment or fill in a preference survey before you got to look at the car. It was just there in the lobby on the way to the elevator. If you liked what you saw, you could go walk over. You couldn't touch it or sit in it. Those motherfuckers wouldn't let me do that, but you could have a gander. Most coaches, hand raisers, make the qualified buyer do the equivalent of a scavenger hunt. They comment a keyword, they wait for an automated reply, click the link, fill out the form, confirm your email, book a call, wait 5 days for the fucking call, show up ready to be convinced. And by the time you've gone through all that as a buyer, you're no longer fucking interested. You were someone interested who 5 days ago, and you can't remember why you gave a fuck or why you opted in the first place or what you even opted into. The runway is the distance between intent and the right next step. In the version that actually converts, it's got to be measured in seconds, not days. And that's what I was talking about beforehand. You can go through my entire process without any time barrier at all. You can just go, boop, 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 next step. The only thing you got to do is watch the video and find the secret keyword as like a little Easter egg. But you're not having to go through 17 different things, go through a calendar link, or even speak to me personally, because let's be fucking honest. You guys don't want to be on a sales call. I don't want to be on a fucking sales call. And so why would I make you jump on one if neither of us want to do it? It's got to be simple. It's got to be watch a video, get the feel, get the drift, enjoy what you see, realize that it's probably going to help you out a lot, comment a fucking keyword, get the offer doc that describes everything that's in it. If you qualify, apply. And if you are qualified and you do apply and you get accepted, send some money over and get started on making your business fucking fantastic. It doesn't have to be so many circus hoops that you jump through. You shouldn't be asking your clients to do something fucking crazy where they got to go to Calendly and then this website and then this website and then this one. That's a fucking pain in the ass. I don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. So why would your customers want to do it? You want to make the runway as short as it possibly can be while also being as long as it necessarily needs to be. And there's a real nice dynamic between the two. Way too long and they just think you're dicking them around. Way too short and you look like you're just begging for money. But once you do get it right, the Rolls is right there in the lobby and your right next step for your customers should be 2. The pushback that I get on this is, oh yeah, if I make it too easy, I'll get unqualified leads following through. Yes, if you make it way too easy, that's correct. But if you've done the first 2 steps by orchestrating the lobby correctly and getting the rhythm right, the people that are actually opting into the hand raiser are the right people. So by the time someone comments your keyword, they've already been qualified from a bunch of posts that you've done before and the 4 times that they saw the invitation to go to the next step. The runway isn't a filter, the lobby is the filter. The runway is just the distance that needs to be short enough and long enough to not break what the lobby built for you. And that's the runway, from intent to next step in as few steps as possible, but also as many steps as necessary. All right, let's rip the recap. Your hand raisers aren't broken. Your audience that you're sending them to likely is. And the fix is never going to be copy. It's the environment the copy's landing inside. The Rolls-Royce Lobby works in 3 parts. You've got the lobby where you build the environment, where your content is sharp enough that the right buyer recognizes themselves in it, and then everybody else moves on. then the hand raiser doesn't need to do any convincing. The rhythm is where you reliably park your Rolls-Royce in that lobby so that you've got the same door. It's a little bit of a different angle, but it's predictable enough that when the timing hits, the right buyer knows exactly where to go. And the runway is the right next thing, from intent to next step in as few steps as possible and as many steps as necessary, where you're not getting them to fill out these drastic forms or these crazy calendar setups or no scavenger hunts. Build those 3 and the hand raiser stops feeling like work and that has to do extra qualification. It starts feeling like a door that opens when the right person happens to walk past it and says, I would like some help, please. That's exactly what it should feel like. 2 invitations before I let you go. If you want the messaging framework that actually builds a lobby in the first place, the video from last week goes through the whole thing. It's called the message spine. That's going to be the first link in the description, or it's going to be here or here. And if you want to see where the Rolls-Royce is actually parked in my business, the whole thing end to end. I dropped a training last week for sports and fitness coaches that want to go to 20K and beyond, and it's a step-by-step plan. It walks you through how the entire system works. And if you're a fit for it, what working together actually looks like. You get to the end of that video and comment send me the secret keyword. Not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to make you watch the video. But if you get there and it looks like working together is going to be a good thing, great. Love to help you out. If not, no problem. That's the second link in the description. Go take a look. That's all from me today. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you next week.